Hello, this is Erin with the Joy in Pens and Paper, and it is 6:09 in the morning. It is dark out, it is quiet. My family is getting ready for work, school, all the things, and I am going to do a 3 inks video. So I got a new ink this week, and it is Frankly Walnut by Robert Oster. It is an exclusive for Federalist pens, and I got this at the Commonwealth Pen Show. And as I have thought about this ink and pictured it in my mind and saw kind of how it swatched on a video, and then how it writes and a few samples, I started thinking, I have a couple of inks that reminds me of, and what an awesome opportunity to test it out. So I have a couple of comparison inks, but before I get to that, a 3 inks video comes out on a Thursday because your girl likes some alliteration. So it involves taking 3 inks, comparing them on 3 different papers, and then using 3 different nib sizes to write. And then we all get a moment to look at it and compare it. The 3 pens that I will be using will continue to be the TWSBI Go in fine, medium, and stub. I do have a Kakimori brass nib pen to do the general swatches. And besides the Robert Oster Frankly Walnut, I have 2 samples. I have Robert Oster Muddy Wine and Ferris Wheel Press Steeped Umber. One thing that I've noticed about Frankly Walnut is as it dries, the color shifts a little bit. So I think what I want to do is swatch that one last, and that way we get the comparison against the 2 when it's wet, and then a comparison against the 2 when it's dry. Hopefully that plan pans out. So, and I will also be using a Inkopet. This is the pirate version. He's got a hat. It's on my messy desk. It's a mess right around here, but he has a hat. All right, so starting with Ferris Wheel Press Steeped Umber. We'll just do our swatches. Oh, and I do also have just a white t-shirt off to the side to capture the moisture after I rinse. And just for workflow, I'm going to move my water over to this side. So with a fine nib, I'm just going to push this down so that I get a flatter surface. This is getting to be quite the chunky book. Oh, and apparently today I am having a risk taker day because I did not put the writing guide behind this. So hopefully it looks okay. With the medium, I will write the ink name. And then with the stub, I will just write some uppercase and lowercase letters. It is a very different color on the bank paper than it is on, actually it's a different color in all three. That's really interesting. It will appear as if the pens have gone missing because they are resting on the white t-shirt to pull out to absorb all of the moisture possible in between swatches. I like what's happening right here. You might notice sometimes as I use the Kakimori nib that I slightly turn it as I'm writing with it just to get a little bit more of a consistent ink swatch. I am not mad about a streaky ink swatch, but just to get the color on the page without the brass nib causing friction against the page and pilling it. So I'd rather the ink get on the page than the nib pull at some dry fibers. Now this ink, the Muddy Wine, is part of a Muddy series that Robert Oster did. And I have a few samples in that series that were provided to me in an ink swap. And I like all the ones that I have samples of, which is not surprising to me because I do tend to like muddy or murky colors. Okay, now let's get into Frankly Walnut. Now, I do talk about this in the video for the Commonwealth Pen Show haul, that I ended up going with this ink because it was an exclusive of the booth that the ink, a lot of ink was displayed at. So I was feeling overwhelmed with all the choices, and so this seemed like a good choice because it would always remind me of that pen show. In my very short experience with this ink, it's a very lubricated ink. So I'm very intrigued to see how it does in these 3 nib sizes. You can even see on the nib, the ink just sticks right to it. There's a little bit of feathering with the fine nib. It doesn't seem to be any more feathering with the medium than with the fine. Okay. So as this is drying, the thing I notice about Frankly Walnut is it goes down a little bit more brown and then it dries a little bit more kind of burgundy Merlot. And you know, I almost said at the beginning, I think Steeped Umber is going to be the outlier, but I was intrigued to see if it would be a little bit more similar when it first goes down. So starting at the top, you've got Steeped Umber. I keep saying that word wrong, Steeped Umber, which is a bit more of a kind of mahogany brown or reddish undertone to it, but you don't actually see that on the bank paper. You're seeing, or I'm seeing, a kind of tannish brown, and then you've got this beautiful, really, really dark, almost black down here in the saturated area. So that's a lot of fun. On Cosmo Air Light, it's leaning a little bit more into that orangey, reddy color. And then the Tomoe River is what I expected because I initially swatched it on Tomoe River. That's the paper that I'm a little bit most familiar with. With Robert Oster Muddy Wine, that one I do think is very similar to Frankly Walnut. So Muddy Wine, it's got this kind of a mauve-y brown on the bank paper. You get a little bit more pinky on Cosmo Air Light, and then it's closer to bank paper on the Tomoe River paper. And then the Frankly Walnut, again, this to me looks pretty similar. This is a bit more purple versus this is a bit more pink. But it is a very similar color between these two. Looking at the Cosmo Air Light, this is much more of that brighter pink coming out than the Muddy Wine on Cosmo Air Light. And on the Tomoe River, it looks similar to, it's kind of in between these two right here, but it is a little bit more purple. This is a little bit more brown. This is all to my eye. If I'm looking at my viewfinder here, I don't know that you're gonna see necessarily the amount of differences that I see, but it could translate differently once I edit, upload, etc. In the writing on the fine nib right here, there is some feathering, but actually it's very minimal. It's actually, it's less with the medium, and it's even less with the stub nib. So that's really good. I got a little worried as I started to see that feathering come out, that the medium and the stub were going to be a bit of a disaster. So that could mean that there was some residual water in my nib when I did that writing. Yeah. So welcome to the family, Robert Oster Frankly Walnut. I'm happy to have you. You blend in nicely with all the other relatives. Yeah, I'm excited to get to know this ink a little bit more. And I am also happy that my mind's eye, my memory was correct with Muddy Wine. And like I said, I knew that Steeped Umber would be a bit of an outlier. The other ink that I considered comparing was Colorverse Intense Magnetic Field. And that's, again, from my memory, it's a brighter, deeper red. So that's ultimately why I didn't choose it, but I thought it could be similar. So perhaps I will explore that in a future 3 inks just to clarify that for myself. But anywho, thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one.